I wanted to do a little practice. It's funny that the neck was coming up. I don't know why my head was like in the way where it could get bonked and like injure me. There's something in head and neck, and I think fall is coming and it's flighty and it's feeling heady and weird. And first day of school, all of this is kind of speaking to me. I wanted to do a practice to maybe relieve some pressure in the head. Of course, I'm not like, this is actually probably not good to do if you have an actual head injury, but for the regular day, I hope this will be, a nice practice for that. So we can start lying down actually in savasana. So you can come to a position where you're lying down with your feet outstretched on the floor. And as always, all of the movements that I'm offering today are just suggestions, and you are free to choose what you do during this time. You can keep your camera on or off. You can, and you should, attend to whatever you need during this time. If that means changing your shape or... So we'll begin lying down. That's my first suggestion. Shavasana, corpse pose. You should have a little bit of space between your feet. Your arms can be by your sides, maybe with the palms facing up. Notice how as you roll your palms to face up, how you can feel your arms rotating slightly out and maybe a sense of broadness across the chest. There might even be a sense of kind of tucking the shoulder blades underneath the back and finding even more breadth across the chest. And you can give yourself, if you've got space, a little bit of room between your side body and your arm. So you're coming into taking up space, allowing yourself to spread across the space. And just bring your awareness to all of the places that are touching the floor, all of the parts of the body that are making contact. Noticing the texture of the floor that you're on, the particular hardness or softness of whatever you're laying on. You might notice that it would be a little nicer to have something underneath your head. Sometimes that's nice to have the head a little bit lifted so that the chin can tuck in towards the throat with some ease. And then go ahead and flex your feet, activate through your feet so that it's like as if you were standing on the wall in front of you. So your feet are parallel, there's a little bit of space between them, and the toes are all pointing up towards the ceiling. And you can energize through the arches of the feet as if you were pressing into the floor, into the wall. And then just start to, with your feet activated, you're going to point your toes forward like they're going to touch the wall in front of you, and then just release them. So you're just doing like a little heel rock on the floor. Your heels will stay more or less where they are, and then your toes kind of pointing towards the wall in front of you and coming back to the ceiling will create a soft rocking on the floor. See if you can find that. You can kind of jiggle them back and forth a little quicker. You can find this kind of slow rocking. And as you point and flex the feet, just notice the back of your head where it's touching the floor. And if you can notice any movement in the back of the head kind of rocking across the floor, forward and back. Really gentle. You're just releasing the facial muscles, releasing the jaw. And then bring your feet now to stand. So you'll have your 2 footprints on the floor, your knees pointed up towards the ceiling. Again, there's a little bit of space between your feet. There's space between your knees and between your thigh bones. You can kind of adjust however you need to adjust so that your chin is pointing in towards your throat, or not pointing, but rather reaching in towards your throat, tucked slightly. And feel your feet on the floor. You can feel into where you're touching the floor and then where you're not touching the floor. The arches and the pads of your feet. And then you can gently press into the floor with your feet and then release that pressure so that you start to kind of scoot or rock forward and back. By forward and back, I mean towards your feet and towards your head direction. Just notice if you can find a movement like that. And if it's not happening, you can try a different way and then you can just rest. It's like you're pressing into your feet, and as you press into your feet, yeah, your body starts to kind of move in that direction, like you're pressing yourself back. And then as you release that pressure, shunk, everything kind of comes back in the direction of the feet. You can also experiment with like up and down with the pelvis, like you press into the feet and you notice a little lift in the tailbone can be found, and then you can release back down. That's another kind of direction. What I'm trying to do, or kind of leading you towards, is this idea that your feet are connected to your spine. Your feet can interact with your spine. The way that your feet are interacting with the floor, shifting their weight on the floor, actually moves the rest of you. Then you can just rest with your feet standing. Feeling the footprints, feeling the arches of the feet. And then if you have space, you can bring your elbows out to the sides like a cactus. So the elbows are bent, the backs of the hands are on the floor. And then just move your knees over to one side. And you'll take just an easy diagonal twist. So as your knees go to one side, say your knees are going to the right, your left shoulder, your left kind of armpit is extending out and down to the side, opposite side. You might choose to turn and look at that opposite hand with the gaze, or maybe it's nicer to look up towards the ceiling. And notice your breath here. Notice where you feel the breath moving. And you might imagine that you're breathing into that chest or that armpit or that side body. That the actual like exchange of air is happening here in the side, here in the armpit. And then you can change to the other side, bring in the knees up and over to the other side. So if they were pointing towards your, right, they'll go now towards your left, and then your right shoulder will seek the floor. It might lift off a little bit, that's okay. The knees might not touch the floor, that's okay. Less concerned about that. Less concerned too about the orientation of the knees towards each other. They don't need to stack or look any particular way. We're just moving the lower body one direction, letting gravity take the weight of the legs, and then letting gravity take the shoulder and the arm the other direction. bringing the knees a little closer to the chest will give you more sense of like a twisty twist. And then bringing them a little further away from the chest, to me, it gets kind of into like outer hip, lower belly, and some really nice sensation to be found there. But it's my belief that it's very little to do with how you construct this particular shape, and more to do with it then, once it's constructed, how is the breath moving in this shape? The breath should always be able to move easily. The breath is kind of the leader for the shape to follow. You can come back to center when you're ready. And just hug your knees in towards your chest, both knees squeezing in towards the chest, asana. You might grab the backs of the hamstrings or the fronts of the shins or fronts of the knees. And you might feel like rocking side to side or taking some sort of movement, or maybe you feel like finding some stillness. Nice. And then let's roll to one side and use your hands to bring yourself up to a seated pose. It can be any comfortable seat. I like to sit up on a thing just to allow a little bit more space in the front of the pelvis. And you'll take your time getting there and then building this shape, setting it up how you want it to be. Feeling where you're touching the floor now and the way that the sitting bones now are grounding into the floor primarily. And the spine can grow up out of the sitting bones, out of the pelvis. Your chin can still be nice and tucked to allow for space at the back of the neck, and the shoulder blades now slide down the back, broadening across the chest. And from here, I'd love to chant. We'll just chant Om once to kind of open our practice formally. If it feels good, you could bring your palms together, resting your thumbs against your sternum. So you're welcome to chant with me or to just feel this sound, hear this sound. So we'll breathe in through the nose and then we'll chant Om once. You can bow your chin in towards your chest, blink your eyes open and lower your hands. Then let's come to all fours, please. And we'll move through some cats and some cows. To start linking the breath with the movement even more mindfully. So as you inhale and you come into cow, reaching the heart forward in between the arms, feel your inhalation bring you all the way forward. And then as you exhale into cat, rounding through the spine, puffing up in between the shoulder blades and dropping the tail towards the floor, feel your breath empty all the way out. This is a nice place to just kind of notice what's happening with the breath, where are there stuck places, what's going on with the spine, where are there parts of the body that feel kind of held or kind of dense. And you're starting to focus in on this relationship between the breath and the movement. Filling up to come to cow, emptying out to come to cat. And then you might like to play with that space at the top of the inhalation. When you're full, you're reaching the heart forward, you're in cow, and there's a moment before the breath moves out, kind of a suspension there. And similarly, as you empty out, you bring the navel towards the spine, the breath moves out, the tail and the head drop down. There's a moment where you are empty before the next breath comes in. And then a lot of times when we have kind of this feeling of just like too much pressure in the head, a lot of times it is in the neck. So you can, on cat pose, really actually allow your head to drop down and your neck to release. Whoa. Yeah. Inhaling, coming forward, letting the chin stay tucked in cow pose so that you stay back long in the back of the neck. Yeah. Beautiful, Amal. And then letting the head drop down in cat pose. Lovely. And you might start to just take this movement into some other kind of groovy sequence of your own design. Maybe you start making circles with the spine. Maybe you exaggerate that inhalation so you come forward even further into like almost up dog or something, and then you go back into child's pose or something like that. I don't know. You can wag your tail. You can circle around the wrists. Something that feels really nice and feels led by the breath. Wonderful. And then just come back to sit on your heels. If you're really freaking hardcore, maybe you tuck your toes underneath you, or maybe you just sit on your heels. And then you can also, of course, sit on a block. So we're coming to just some kind of kneeling shape. And notice this space in front of you, this horizon line out in front of you, and settle your gaze there. Notice that that allows the chin to tuck in a little bit like we were trying to find before. And then we'll take the left hand out to the side and let the right ear drop towards the right shoulder. And with those left fingertips, it can be nice to like wiggle them around or like wave the hand in some way, just because, I don't know, sometimes the hand kind of falls asleep in a weird way. So you're kind of like reaching out to some, just letting the right ear fall towards the right shoulder. Just letting gravity take your head over to one side and letting that side of the face, jaw, everything release, relax. You could even let your mouth fall open for this part and just let your tongue hang out, whatever. And then moving your hands slightly back in space, you can reach your chin slightly forward and get into this like gnarly front of the face, lower jaw area. So you're reaching like back in space a little bit with this arm, back in space, and you're letting your chin tilt forward a little bit. I almost hesitate to like demonstrate it because it's kind of like something you can find the sweet spot of like where you feel like a little stretch in the front of the throat. And then you can reach the arm forward in space, like you're reaching like kind of down and diagonal, like you're going to pet like a little cat that's down there. And you can reach point the forehead a little bit forward. So then you're kind of rounding through the back of the neck, and similarly finding the place for the hand that lets you get into some good kind of trap neck tension here. Breath is moving most of all. Sound is welcome. You're all muted, so you can make whatever kind of weird sound wants to come out. Bleh. And then just come back to center and notice your two sides as you rest your hands maybe by your sides or in your lap somewhere, just noticing both sides of the neck, both sides of the face. And then let your left ear reach towards your left shoulder and let the right hand come down out to the side. Notice how the spine, everything is staying nice and structured, and then you're letting gravity take your head one way and your arm is reaching the other way. Jaw can fall open, face can be relaxed. In fact, making odd sounds during this is kind of helpful because it will remind you to breathe. And then you can reach your arm back like, oh, my little like puppy is down behind me and diagonally from me. Oh, there you are, little puppy. And you're reaching your chin slightly forward until you find this space that's like, oh, Jesus, ow, but awesome, but ow. And then you could reach your arm forward and bow your forehead slightly forward and find this space where you're getting into the top of the shoulder, back of the neck. Oh, yeah. Buh. Okay. And come back to center. And now with our hands, just rub your hands together a little bit. You're noticing the sides of your neck. You're letting your face be soft. Just rubbing your hands together in case they're kind of cold. And we're just gonna, with our palms, with that kind of energy in the palms, just start to, to your comfort level, touch the sides of your face, your neck, your throat, whatever feels nice. It could turn into kind of like a kind of palpating massage through, pressing through the fingertips and giving yourself a little bit of pressure. It could be a simple holding of the sides of the jaw. And the breath is moving. But notice these hands that are touching your body and the way that your hands are receiving touch, from your face or from your forehead or wherever. Can feel like this touch both ways, giving your hands some power, some kind of nurturing power, almost as if your touch is going to melt that place that you're touching, or that hand is going to warm that place that you're touching. Where's that power coming from, that healing presence? Let's say it comes from the breath. So with each inhalation and exhalation, it's like you're pouring in this kind of nurturing presence through your hands into your face, your head, wherever. And I'd like to chant Om once more, wherever your hands want to be. That's great. So we'll inhale We'll chant Om once. And I'd just like you to notice or experience just this channel from the bottom of the spine all the way up through your open, spacious throat, open, spacious, easy facial muscles, vibrating this sound all the way up to your head. So we'll inhale through the nose, bring sound from the base of the floorboards all the way up through the crown of the head. Come back to forest, please, when you're ready. We'll inhale forward into cow pose, stretching the heart open, letting the back of the neck stay nice and long, and then exhale through cat pose all the way back to child's pose, balasana. And in balasana, it might be nice to support the forehead with a pillow or a block or something. Or even your hands could make a little pillow for your forehead. So here you might imagine this breath moving in and out through maybe the kidney area or the space between the shoulder blades. Feel how naturally the back of the neck is long, the chin is slightly tucked. And the face here is like in its own private space, so it can be super relaxed. There's no need to express any kind of expression of any kind. You can just rest. And then if you would like to, you can come up for a moment, tuck your toes underneath you and rest back into, I don't know what this is called. Like, I've heard it called puppy pose before, like balasana, but with the toes tucked, so that you're pressing the hips back, but the backs of the feet, the soles of the feet are open. And then for me, because that always makes me just want to rest back very gently, but maybe you could come all the way down. Just opening the backs of the soles of the feet. Sending now breath to the soles of the feet as if you're breathing in and out from the soles of the feet. And playing with your kind of edge here of sensation. Welcome, Holly. Holly's here. Hi. Couple more breaths here, just breathing in and out of the soles of the feet. And then from here, bring the arms outstretched in front of you. So you're in Uttita Balasana, extended child's pose, with the toes tucked. And then you can send the hips up and back for Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. And once you get there, you might, want to adjust the distance between your feet or the distance between your feet and your hands. You might walk your feet back or walk your hands forward. Keep your knees nice and bent, especially this first few moments, just to allow the hamstrings to be like, oh, okay, hello. You could pedal the feet out, bending one knee and straightening the other. And then lower the knees for a moment, come back to all fours. So you're coming back to like a tabletop. And just notice your hands from your tabletop position. Walk your hands, maybe one handprint in front of you. So they're a little forward of your shoulders. And spread your fingers really wide. And you might even turn your palms out slightly so that the space between your thumb and your first finger is what's facing forward. Just a little bit. And then from there, press down through the base of every finger. Start to press your elbows to straighten. Like you're pressing the floor away. And then with that kind of action with the hands, you can add one more kind of element. I suppose it's like you're pressing down and forward. This image that you're pressing down and forward with the hands. And then with the toes tucking underneath you, you can send the hips up and back for downward facing dog once again. Again, the knees can be as bent as they want to be. And the fingers are active, the hands are pressing the floor away. There's this feeling that as you press the hands down and forward, the hips can move up higher towards the ceiling. And there's all of this action in the hands, there's all of this strength in the arms. I'll invite you to actually release the head for today. That's our little theme, releasing the head and neck. It's kind of funny. You might find that it doesn't want to. It wants to stay in line with the spine, whether that's, a habit or just kind of feels more comfortable. It's cool to notice. Great. And then you can slowly start to walk the feet towards the hands, keeping your knees nice and bent. Coming to Uttanasana, standing forward bend. So letting the spine hang down over the legs as if you're suspended by your tailbone. I like to picture that in like Peter Pan, and I'm in one of those cool harness things and they're lifting me up towards the ceiling from the pelvis. And then the rest of you can just hang. And bend your knees as much as is comfortable. Sometimes bending the knees can, for some reason, allow the spine to release a little bit more. And then, really awesome impulse to grab opposite elbows to kind of weigh down the spine. Let the head follow. It's almost like your arms to your head are like, we're going this way, like it's okay. There's such great resistance to let go of the neck and head. And I think that makes perfect sense. And I think that that's all right. We want to keep don't lose your head. Let's see if you can play with that and just invite it to maybe nod yes or shake no, just a little bit. Great. And from here, I'm going to bring your hands down to the floor on either side of your feet. And we'll step the left foot back so that we're in a lunge. And you can bring your back knee down so you're in a low crescent lunge. Yep. Really nice. This is a great place for blocks if you want to have blocks to rest your hands on. You can also bring your hands, to rest on your front knee. And find your balance here. You might just discover that it's nicer to have your toes, your back foot toes tucked, or maybe it's nicer to have the top of the foot long on the floor. And then you can start to reach the arms forward and up to come alongside your ears in maybe like a wide V shape, maybe like the cactus like we were doing on the floor, or maybe just straight up. You can find the expression that feels nice for you. And notice how bringing the arms into this shape kind of invites the breath to move up into the chest, to open up the heart. So before I was saying it was the breath telling the body what to do. Now I'm kind of saying the opposite. Truth is, I don't really know, probably both. Bring my elbows out to the side. The breath is like, yes, wants to move up into the heart. And then this last breath or two, maybe you interlace your hands behind you or your fingers. So your knuckles are reaching down towards your back heel. Nice shoulder opener. And now from this lunge, just twist your navel so that your navel's looking kind of over your front thigh. So you're twisting to your right. Yeah. Awesome. And then we're going to take the arms out to the side. So we're like in a, reaching out side to side. The arms are in line with the shoulders. And then we're going to take like some big arm circles coming up and around and down to the side. So the arms are going in opposite directions. Yeah, it takes a second for the brain to be like, what the hell? Another reason why this is not a good class if you actually have a head injury. It's too confusing. But so the arms are coming up and over, twisting you over, and yeah. And then you can change directions. It's like one arm is doing backstroke, the other arm is doing the forward stroke. What's it called? I don't know. Here we are. We're just moving the shoulders with the breath. We're letting the arms, as if the arms are coming out of the spine itself. And then you can bring your palms to heart center. Take one more breath here. And exhale, bring your hands to frame your front foot and step yourself back to downward facing dog. So lift your back knee off the floor, step that front foot back, pressing into the palms. Yeah, and following your impulse, maybe it's a nice moment to pause in a kneeling shape or balasana, or maybe you're feeling like you want to move a little bit more fluidly and unceasingly. But in a moment, we'll just come to a lunge on the other side. So you'll step now your left foot forward so that it comes in between your hands. Really nice. And then lower your back knee down. Coming up into this low crescent lunge on this side. Building the shape from the floor up, and then eventually letting that expression come into the arms to come into a V shape or maybe a cactus arms. It's like your sternum is trying to look at the ceiling. Anisha's literally is, but it's like the rest, it's like this image that the heart is looking towards the ceiling, and that's where this upper back bend comes from. Not from, squishing anything, but rather that the heart is so stoked about looking at the ceiling that everything kind of lifts up out of the pelvis, up through the side waist. Nice. And then you can maybe come back to center, interlace your fingers behind you, letting the shoulders stretch open. Or really the collarbone stretch open, the shoulder blades come towards each other. And then we'll take a little twist. Using the muscles of the abdomen to do this twist, first of all, we're just turning the navel and the heart towards the front leg. So you're twisting to your left this time. Notice how this is different from when we were on our backs and we were doing that kind of passive twist. Here we're like moving the navel to look the other direction. And then we could bring our arms, one arm reaching forward, one arm reaching back. So the right arm reaching forward, left arm reaching back. So we're like reaching open through the fingertips, like we're gonna give someone a hug. And notice for a moment before I start doing my weird swimming arm idea, notice your navel center. And can you imagine that or feel the fact that your arms are emerging kind of out of the center of your abdomen? Or if it doesn't feel like that, you can imagine it. Like the base of my arm, the root of my arm is not in my shoulder joint. It's like around my heart space. It's like maybe around my belly or something. And then from there, you can start this odd, patting the head, rubbing the belly kind of arm circle thing, where one arm is going forward and the other arm is going back. And then you can change directions when you feel like it. That's a nice way to like kind of get yourself out of some kind of mental stuckness, is like do something kind of like dumb but challenging, like this kind of thing. Like why? I don't know. Shaking it up. Whee. Feeling how your whole arm is moving, following your fingertips. Your whole shoulder girdle is involved. And then you can come back to center, pressing palms together, taking one more moment, facing forward. Bring your hands to frame your front foot and use your hands to press yourself back to downward facing dog. So tucking your back foot toes if they aren't already. In downward facing dog, you might let the head and neck hang. You might find that the crown of the head is quite close to the floor. And in that case, you could even rest the crown of the head on the floor or on a block or something. Here in downward facing dog, your tailbone is like the top of this triangle that you're making. You can feel this energy flowing down the backs of your legs into your feet, simultaneously down through the spine, out through the crown of your head. It's like the two sides are both extending from this middle point, which is the pelvis. Really nice. And then please walk your feet towards or hands towards your feet. However you want to get there. Uttanasana, standing forward bend. Again, just letting the head hang, or rather asking the head if it can hang, if it wants to, and then maybe inviting it to try a little bit less. I was going to say try a little more, try a little less. Yeah, some of you had like an impulse to sway side to side. That's awesome. And then as you inhale, you'll come halfway up, Ardha Uttanasana, lengthening from head to tail, reaching the crown of your head forward, your tailbone back, and then exhale to fold once again. As you come up for Ardha Uttanasana, it can be nice to bring your hands to the sides of your legs so you can feel your shoulder blades pulling onto your back as you lengthen. So you're coming halfway up, you're making like a letter L, tucking the chin, letting the back of the neck be long. And exhaling. On your next inhalation, come on all the way up. So you'll pass through that halfway up shape. You'll come all the way up to Tadasana, standing mountain pose. Your hands here can just rest by your sides. You might like a little bit of space between your feet, or maybe you want your feet a little closer together. And turn your palms to face forward. Again, noticing the way that turning, like in Shavasana, we've turned the palms to face, in that case, up the ceiling. Turning the palms to face forward, notice how it brings your shoulders onto your back, opens across the collarbones. And then I like to take just the teeny tiniest, not even a bend, just some softness in the knees and letting the tailbone relax down a little bit. Not fully like pelvic tuck, but more like what I imagine it feels like to be a kangaroo or something. Like you just have a little presence back and down. Really nice. And then please bring your arms out to the sides so that they're straight out from the shoulder. Yeah, you can adjust in your space to make sure that there's space. And keep your feet on the floor, feel that your footprints are still solid in the floor. Feel your chin is still tucked, your spine is still long. The only thing that's changed is just now your hands are reaching out to the sides. And then you can wrap your left arm over your right to give yourself a little hug. And taking a couple of breaths here, you can breathe into that space that you're holding with your arms. Sending the breath in between the shoulder blades and into the heart space. Notice the face is still soft, the breath is still easy. And then from here, you might bring the backs of your hands together or your palms to touch. So you're coming to like Garudasana arms as you're standing. So the key is like cool moves with the arms, but I'm more interested in how the feet stay supportive, the breath stays moving. And then yes, there's really awesome kind of opening to be found in the space between the shoulder blades as you move your elbows slightly up and forward away from you. If you practice eagle pose a lot, you might feel like your body remembers that feeling of these arms in a balancing pose, which is kind of nice. Now you can do that balancing pose, but you have both feet on the ground, if that makes a shred of sense to anybody's experience. It's like, oh yes, I remember I remember what balancing is like here. And then if you want to, you can make this pose into a balancing pose. You could bring one foot off the floor. You could come into kind of like a tree pose situation or a full Garudasana situation. You can just play. Yeah. The sole of one foot can come to the side of the ankle or the side of the knee. You're still breathing through that space in between the shoulder blades. Really nice. How easy can it be? And then just bring your foot down if you were balancing and let your arms fall to your side and just notice this space through the shoulders, through the neck, through the face. You can let the belly be soft, even as you're standing here, steady, mountain-like. You can let your breath be soft, your belly be soft. And then bring your arms out to the side once again. Feel your feet on the floor, first of all. Imagine that these arms are coming out not from the shoulder socket, like this kind of invites a little like reaching up through the sides of the neck. Instead, they're coming from the ground, even from your trunk, from your center. And then you can wrap, I don't know, right and left, the other side. You know what? I think I don't remember. I think last time we did the left over right, so now it's right over left. But but who knows? You can give yourself a hug here and just breathe into this space. A lot of days, this is like, this is enough. This offers so much, sensation. You can kind of reignite those hands and let your hands touch or massage your shoulders or the side of your neck. And then maybe you move into a eagle arms, bringing the backs of the palms together and maybe eventually the palms to touch. Feeling that you have the ground underneath you, you have your feet firmly rooted into the floor so that you can breathe up into this kind of vulnerable heart space, this shoulder tension space. There's a reason why this is where we hold. In fact, I notice a lot of times when people practice this eagle pose, these arms, suddenly the face starts to get really tight, the eyebrows go, or like this weird kind of crazy smile comes, or like this some kind of like, don't let it go. So just notice those responses and see if you can just breathe through this shape, breathe with this shape. After all, you're just witnessing all of this stuff coming up, passing away. And then if you feel like it, you can come into a balancing pose here. So you're letting that rootedness that you found through the 2 feet be translated into just 1 foot. Now this 1 foot is rooting down into the earth, allowing you to come into maybe bringing the sole of the foot to the side of the leg or the ankle, or crossing the legs. And as you're negotiating this balance, I'll invite you to just watch the breath. Notice if there's some holding in the breath. See if you can keep the breath moving. Notice that how balancing is the process of wobbling and is the process of falling out and coming back. That's what it is. Otherwise, it would just be standing. You're balancing. You're negotiating. Really nice. And then when you are done playing, you can bring both feet back to the floor and then release your arms to your sides. And we'll come down now back to Uttanasana, but we'll come down in the, shout out to, my drama school roots. We're going to let the head drop down and we're just going to drop down the spine. So first let the chin drop in towards the chest and then let the weight of the top of the head start to drag you down towards the floor. So you're rolling down vertebrae by vertebrae. Really slowly, as if your head is just so heavy that it's pulling the rest of you down bit by bit. Letting the knees bend. Breathing all the way down. And then when you get there, you could grab opposite elbows. You could bring your hands to the floor. You can let them dangle. Highly recommend bending the knees at least a teeny bit. It'll encourage the head and neck to release a little more. And then please bring your hands to the floor, bending your knees as much as you need to make that possible. And then you'll walk yourself out, forward or back or wherever you are to come to downward facing dog. So you maybe are walking your hands forward or maybe you're stepping your feet back, depending on where you are. In this downward facing dog, you're pressing your hands down and forward. You're letting your feet ground down and letting your pelvis fly up towards the ceiling. You can allow your heels to become heavy, so they're energized. They're either maybe touching the floor or maybe they just want to, they're reaching that direction. Doesn't matter if they do or not. They're pressing into the air in that case. And then you can let the knees softly come down towards the floor, sinking yourself back to balasana, child's pose. Perhaps with your arms outstretched in front of you, or maybe with your arms alongside you. Palms facing up, the fingertips facing the same direction as the toes. Yeah. Here's another place where it might be nice to give yourself some touch with your own hands. Maybe you are resting your head on your hands, or maybe you are holding, touching the sides of your neck or the back of the head. Really nice. And then walk yourself up to a kneeling position. We'll just come to a seat, any comfortable seat. And then please come to have your legs outstretched in front of you. And this is a place where it's nice to sit up on something, perhaps, to let the pelvis be lifted and a little bit more space in the front of the pelvis. Maybe. The knees can be a little bent, that's great. Or they could be not bent. You're energized out through the feet. And then let's bring the right foot to the floor, just inside the left leg. Oops. Sorry, I'm in like almost total darkness. My eyeballs, but you see what I'm talking about? Kind of, yeah. Okay, right foot is kind of in. It could be any place where that feels doable, you know. Sometimes bringing it a little closer is easier. Sometimes it's nicer to have it further away. We'll reach the arms up, reaching the fingertips up towards the sky. And then we'll bring that left elbow across. So you're twisting your belly towards that bent knee. And you're coming to a seated twist here. The right fingertips will come behind you. Yeah. So it's important to feel that you're long through the spine first, and then you're twisting. And sometimes cutting that elbow across is too intense. And then in that case, I kind of like to just rest my arm on that knee and hang out here and feel like I don't have to go all the way over. That can be nice too. And then notice the neck and head. See if you feel like looking over that back shoulder. Might be nice, maybe not. I don't know. Whatever's easy to breathe. You can imagine on this twist that with each exhalation, maybe you're wringing something out or letting something go. You can untwist whenever you're ready, bringing your feet back long in front of you, Dandasana, staff pose. And then we'll change sides. So the left foot will step in just inside the right leg. That left heel is as close or as far away to your left butt as you want it to be. The idea is to be able to still sit up tall. As you reach the fingertips up, you can feel that you're getting longer through the side waist, longer through the spine. And then you'll exhale, bringing the right elbow across, maybe hooking it on the outside of the left leg, and then the left fingertips behind you. Some of us, it's nice to have a block or something to bring the hand to. If your fingertips are far away from the floor. I don't know. Nice. Amal, is it the hip that's doesn't want to come up? Okay.
It's my hip flexors like cramping.
Got you. You can do instead. Yeah, I feel you. Is it comfortable to sit up like this? If you can just sit and just do it kind of with your legs long. If you want. Nice. And Weston, see if you can keep your head in line with the rest of your spine. Whatever that feels like. Yeah. The chin can tuck in a little bit. This is to just create a clearer kind of pathway for breath and energy to flow from head to tail. And then when you're ready, you can unwind. Bringing your legs back long. And then let's come to lie down on our backs and take a moment in savasana, just letting the legs be long, letting the fronts of the hips release. The feet can flop out whichever way. You might find it's more comfortable here to have the knees bent and the feet flat on the floor. That's cool too. Nice. And then from here, just draw both knees in towards your chest. That was a good idea, Anisha. We should have done that. Nice. Beautiful. Hugging your knees in towards your chest. Your sitting bones are reaching down towards the floor. They want to find the floor, but you're lifting them away from the floor. And this kind of dynamic tension in the lower back can be really nice to just release in this kind of other pocket of tension that we explore a lot through the hips and the groins. And then here's my suggestion, if it sounds nice. Well, first, let's just take happy baby for a moment, just noticing we haven't done a ton of stuff with like external rotation of the hips. So notice what's happening here. Happy baby, Ananda Balasana. The feet are looking up towards the ceiling. The knees are wide. Mm-hmm. And then my idea was to chill for a little while in a supported Supta Baddha Konasana. So that could look a lot of different ways. And if that feels like it's not the vibe, you can always take some other kind of resting pose. You might take legs up the wall or Shavasana. Supta Baddha Konasana will look like you'll have your feet on the floor, your knees looking up towards the ceiling. You'll bring the soles of the feet to touch one another, so like footprint to footprint. And really like glue the inner foot, glue the outer foot together. And then you can let the knees sort of relax out to the sides. And for me, it's nice to have like blocks or blankets or pillows on either side of the legs so that, that's where I get kind of like reactive kind of hip flexor stuff starts to happen. So if you have like pillows or something to put underneath your knees, then your knees can rest onto something and they can feel not stressed about being suspended in the midair, which is, not pleasant always. Or maybe you're playing with that, gravity drawing your knees open. It's kind of intense, but maybe you want to play with it. And then with your arms, just notice where you'd like to have your arms. You might bring something underneath your head and then bring your arms to rest on your chest. You might bring your arms up overhead. Wherever you are, you want the spine to remain long. So the tailbone is reaching towards your heels. The crown of the head is reaching towards the wall behind you. So your chin is tucked. This is where like a book or a blanket can come in really handy. Arms might be up overhead. Maybe they're resting on the body somewhere. And you can stay here as long as it's comfortable, or as long as it's, inviting curiosity. If it becomes uncomfortable or you become curious about something else, you can bring your hands to the outside of your legs and use your hands to help your knees come back together, and then transition to some other shape. And you're just breathing here and noticing whatever you notice. Noticing not only the sensation in the muscles, like the opening in the kind of groin area, or maybe you're feeling the chest opening, the breath moving up into the chest, but you might also notice the sort of energetic aspect. Your palms might be resting on your body. It might feel this kind of sense of like grounding and gathering. Your palms might be, out to your sides with the palms facing up. It offers a totally different vibe. I was noticing that this was kind of nice shape for releasing pressure in the head, especially if you have something underneath your head, so you're kind of on a slant. I think mainly because there's just so much going on in the rest of the body that you can kind of move, noticing sensation lower in the body, noticing the soles of your feet, and literally bringing your attention down, bringing your mind into the heart space, into the pelvis, as it were. And again, you're staying here only as long as it feels nice. And then when it's time to change positions, you'll bring your hands to the outsides of your legs and use your hands to help your knees come back together. Maybe moving into savasana, or coming into asana first, squeezing your knees in towards your chest one last time. And then you can come to shavasana whenever you're ready. And setting up this pose how you would like to, whatever details, whatever supports you want to add. Maybe something under the head, maybe something under the knees. Maybe you're bringing your arms a little, further away from the body, a little closer, letting the feet flop out side to side. And when you've made the adjustments that you want to make to create, a restful, open structure for breath to flow, for energy to flow, you've made those adjustments, and then you can just rest here. We won't be here that long. But for the next few moments, there's nothing to do but to just be there on the floor, resting in awareness. If the mind feels busy, you might give it an activity to do, like watching the breath or like noticing sensation, feeling, the texture, the temperature, the pressure on the floor. And for the next few moments, I'm just going to name points in the body. And if you'd like to, as I name each point, you can bring your awareness to that place. And we'll just go through the body on like a little tour that way. But also just let my voice become one of the many sounds that are around you, and pay it no mind. But you might just settle your awareness in the space between your eyebrows, behind your forehead, just noticing that space. Perhaps inviting the muscles around it to soften. The center of the throat, noticing awareness in the center of the throat. And there's really nothing to do. You're just resting awareness in the center of the throat. The center of the chest. Behind the breastbone, in front of the spine. The right shoulder joint. The center of the right elbow. The center of the right wrist. The center of the palm. The right palm. The center of the right wrist. Just letting awareness drop into each of these places. Center of the right elbow. The right shoulder joint. Center of the chest. The left shoulder joint. Nothing to do, but just noticing the left shoulder joint. The left elbow. Moving awareness to the center of the left wrist. The left palm. The left wrist. Notice the center of the left elbow. The left shoulder joint. the center of the chest, the center of the pelvis, the right knee, the right ankle, the right heel, awareness is in the center of the right ankle, the right knee, and just notice the center of the pelvis, the left knee, the left ankle. And you're letting this not be the mind, but rather the awareness, just noticing the left foot or left heel, resting in the left heel, the left ankle, the left knee, the center of the pelvis, the center of the heart. You can notice all of those points kind of shimmering there in your awareness. You're just resting and abiding in that awareness. Nothing to do, nothing to think about, nothing to visualize. And our puja gathering will begin in just a few moments. So it's up to you if you'd like to kind of stay in your own space, stay in savasana, or move into some other meditation. No need to get up for any reason, unless you are ready to move into the next thing. But in a moment, we'll just chant to close this portion of our time together. So you can find your way to a comfortable seat if you'd like. Welcome, everybody. We're just closing out our asana portion. If you'd like to join us in kind of bookending, or like we'll chant to end our asana class and the same time to begin the next thing. So whether you're in shavasana, you might just rest here for a little longer, or you might come to a comfortable seat. Noticing all of this space. Great. And as you're sitting, we can all come to a seat. And I'd like to just invite you to notice your spine in your body. Kind of see, feel where it is. Can see / feel how it is, its shape, its density. And kind of tracing it in your awareness from the tip of the tailbone all the way up through the center of you to the cervical spine that then your skull is kind of balancing on top of. And it can be nice after some dynamic movement to come back to that spine and just say what's up to the spine. And now we'll chant. Let's chant Om 3 times. Just one after the next. Vibrating the sound up the spine, as it were. As if we were going to gather this sound from the floor, from the base of the seat, and allow it to vibrate up the spine, out through the crown of the head. Yeah. So you're welcome to chant with me, or to just feel this sound or chant silently to yourself. So if it feels nice, you might bring your palms together and we'll inhale deeply through the nose. Thank you to this ancient practice and all of its teachers. And thank you all for being here. Those of you just joining, welcome. Om, peace, peace, peace.